Are you serious? Are you serious? I mean, and I'm saying that because what I'm about to reveal and say, it is a are you serious moment. There's no question about that. Welcome everybody. This is the Coming Apocalypse. I'm Pastor Paul Begley, and there's some incredible information in the next. Today's Tuesday, so we're only Tuesday, Wednesday. We're 3 days away from the webinar. We're 3 days away from the webinar, October Surprise. Okay, you can get your ticket at my website at paulbegleyprophecy.com. That's the place to go to get that, and be sure you do that because this is unbelievable. I just went through all the presentations. I recorded Mike from the World last night. Oh my Lord, have mercy. Are you serious? Mike dropped so many bombs and so much information that, well, we even in the middle of the interview, we got cut off. He went somewhere he was not supposed to go, and they shut us down, and then we had to reconnect. Let me tell you about it. Guys, first, let me put a shout out real fast. If you guys don't mind, let me put a shout out for bhmd1.com/Paul. That's bhmd1.com/Paul. And we've been told our whole lives that wrinkle creams were the easiest way to look younger. But now one doctor says that's nothing but old news. According to Dr. John Lakey, the world-renowned Beverly Hills beauty expert, most wrinkle fixes on the market are nothing but glorified moisturizers. They hardly make a dent on your appearance, and some even could cause harmful to your skin. But recently, Dr. John Lakey has focused his attention away from the mainstream cosmetic practices, thank God. Why? So that he can pursue a revolutionary anti-aging breakthrough, one that some experts say will empty the wallets of the cosmetic industry. It's almost like photoshopping your face, like me, okay? You may even be mad after you see how easy it is to visibly erase the wrinkles. Are you serious? His personal clients have dubbed his new do-it-yourself technique the age rewinder method because it can take years or even decades off your appearance in 2 minutes. What? Yep, Dr. John Lakey has, if you don't believe me, click on the link below, a step-by-step video. It's been seen over 3 million times. It's incredible. Guys, take the time to watch it. It's quick, it's easy, and it will blow your mind, and you'll be happy. Do it now. That's bhmd1.com/Paul. You will be glad that you did. No doubt about that. And yeah, the webinar, October Surprise. Oh my. Insane. Insane. Okay. 11 hours, 11 different presentations and speakers, an incredible webinar of apocalyptic nature. Okay. It's unbelievable. And I can't say it anymore. There's so much vital information that you'll never hear, never, ever hear on the mainstream media that's revealed by these speakers. It is incredible. Just go to my website, paulbegleyprophecy.com, and get your ticket now. You'll be very glad that you did. You really will. It's 3 days away, guys. Get the tickets now. We're 3 days away. Oh, yes. Let me quit screaming and yelling and start talking about what's going on. The Red Horseman, there's no doubt about this. The Red Horseman has come into view. That's for sure. The red horse will ride. The red horse is riding, and it will ride, and it will continue to ride right now because the wars and rumors of wars are taking place all over the world. Let's start first with Joe Biden. Joe Biden gave a speech today. This will probably be his last significant speech from the pulpit of the United Nations today. And his speech was Putin's war has failed. And he vows to support Ukraine in his address to the United Nations leaders. Biden makes one of his final speeches, and in the final address to the United Nations as President of the United States, and one of his last major speeches before he leaves the White House in January, if not sooner, President Joe Biden made the case for his foreign policy and reflected on his decision not to seek a second term. Yeah, it's because the coup, the cabal kicked him out. That was a coup of the White House if I ever seen one. Anyway, Joe Biden has sought to defend his foreign policy achievements on the world stage with the address he gave today at the UN and the General Assembly against a backdrop of 3 brutal, intractable wars that have stymied world diplomats seeking to end the bloodshed. Addressing the assembly in New York this morning, President Joe Biden took on the mantle of elder statesman as he alternated between the message of hope and a full-throated defense of his record on foreign policy. And without giving a clear vision of how the wars in Gaza or Ukraine or in the Sudan will end, he drew on his 5 decades in government service to exhort leaders to serve their people and find ways to make peace. I've seen a remarkable sweep of history, he said. Things can get better. We should never forget that. I've seen that throughout my career, he said. Biden first turned his attention to Ukraine, where he once again condemned Vladimir Putin's 2022 full-scale invasion and called for continued support for Kiev. Quote, "We cannot grow weary," he said, as the Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky was looking on. "We cannot look away. We will not let up on our support for Ukraine, not until Ukraine wins a just and durable peace." It's quite interesting how he is not backing down, nor is he showing any sign of any kind of negotiation of some kind of peace arrangement between Ukraine and Russia. Now, meanwhile, while that was going on, of course, we all know what's happened here, just in the last 48 hours, the Satan II hypersonic, supersonic, mega rocket that can carry a huge nuclear warhead blew up in the silo. And you'll have to, and so when it blew up, I have everybody kind of has their idea. What happened? Well, Mike from around the world in the webinar, I just filmed it. I just recorded it yesterday with Mike. Mike from around the world in the webinar explains what happened, how it happened, who was involved. It's incredible. Okay. We're seeing some incredible technology and things happening. And I can't say no more because when we were having this discussion, the phone, our line was severed right in the middle of the recording with Mike from the world. We had to reconnect, and that was a clear sign that he had stepped in some areas that he wasn't supposed to step into, but he was just trying to be as forthright as possible. And so you'll hear that and a whole lot more in the webinar, October Surprise. Okay. October Surprise. Meanwhile, though, Vladimir Zelensky says that Ukraine's war with Russia is closer to the end as he appeals for more help. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky said he believes the war with Russia is close to the end, that many believe, and he's called on his allies to help strengthen his Ukrainian army. The plan of victory is strengthening of Ukraine, Zelensky said during a sit-down interview with Good Morning America co-anchor Robin Roberts. That's why we're asking our friends, our allies, to strengthen us. It's very important. Now, that interview was at 7 a.m. this morning on Good Morning America. And Vladimir Zelensky was there along with his his wife, Olena Zelensky. He said, I think that we are closer to peace than you think. He continued, we are closer to the end of this war. We just have to be very strong, very strong. So Zelensky spoke with Roberts as he visited, of course, New York for the United Nations General Assembly as part of a trip to the U.S., where he has promised to present what he calls his victory plan to President Joe Biden, as well as other key American political leaders. Zelensky has repeatedly appealed to the United States and the United Kingdom, the UK, to drop their restrictions on the long-range missiles they have provided to Ukraine to strike targets deep inside Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, has warned that the use of Western weapons to strike Russian targets would be seen as a serious escalation in the war and a direct challenge by NATO nations. Zelensky's request comes amid heavy fighting in eastern Ukraine, as well as weeks into Ukraine's incursion into Russia. Ukraine said it seized hundreds of square miles and dozens of villages inside of Russia in the early days of this surprise offensive in the last month or so. Zelensky told Good Morning America that Putin is afraid of his operation. And he said, it's true. He's afraid very much. Why? Because he's afraid of his people. And they saw that he can't defend their land and their territory. So he says the Ukrainian leader then said that only from a strong position can Ukraine push Putin to stop the war. Meanwhile, Zelensky was joined by his wife, Olena Zelensky, in the interview, and he's expected to now travel to Washington, D.C., to the White House to meet President Joe Biden and presidential candidate Kamala Harris and presidential candidate Donald Trump. This is very significant. Very significant that he's going to meet with Harris and Trump. Obviously, Harris is the VP, so she'll be right there with Joe Biden. That we understand. He'd be meeting with Biden and Harris. But Trump is also going to meet with him, and Zelensky wants to meet with him because it's a high possibility Trump is going to win the election. Matter of fact, the European nations believe he will. Since the G20 summit, when the world leaders, since the World Economic Forum met, at that World Economic Forum, the world started positioning and preparing themselves for a Trump presidency. Number two, at the G20, all the world leaders were there. And the conversation was prepare for a Trump presidency. At the G7 summit, the conversation was prepare for a Trump presidency. And even as I'm talking to you now in the United Nations, that's what's being talked about in the back rooms. Prepare for a Trump presidency. You can't go by the media and the polls. They keep telling you it's like 1 or 2%, but I've got some inside information on polls from inside that that Trump has really got a pretty good lead, a 5-6% lead in almost every battleground state. It's a little closer in Michigan and Wisconsin, but in the others, he's got about a 5 or 6 point lead. Harris has, when you look at it, overall aggregate of popular vote, it's pretty well dead even. But if you look at the Electoral College, Trump should, it looks as though like he's going to win. And this is why Zelensky's meeting with Trump. He's got to get out ahead of the next president. He's trying to end the war. He knows Trump is going to end the war. Trump has said, I will end the war. I'll probably end the war before I even get sworn in. Trump has said this repeatedly. So now Zelensky comes and he's going to meet with Trump. And there's no question. And this is why he's saying the war is closer to the end. And but he's still saying, of course, to Biden and them, send me more money, send me more weapons. I got to stay strong. But this war, we're closer to the end. Militarily, neither side is closer to the end. So it means that the peace talks behind the scenes, behind the red horsemen of the apocalypse, there is discussion on how to end this war. And I've been honest with you guys, and I really believe this, that this war will end because Trump will be elected. And it will end with Russia getting to keep eastern Ukraine that they control, and they will certainly keep Crimea. They've had that for 10 years. And Ukraine will give up those some of that territory that they took. They're going to give it up, give it back to Russia. But Ukraine will get paid a couple $1 trillion to rebuild the infrastructure in their nation that's been damaged from the war. Putin will claim victory, but so will Zelensky. Zelensky will claim victory that his country defended itself and did not lose any territory than when the war began, although that's not true, that he lost more, but that's okay. He'll claim victory that his nation is sovereign, that his nation is going to remain, and that we're going to rebuild, and it's going to be better than ever. And we've got the backing of the whole world on our side. That's what you're going to hear Zelensky say. What you're going to hear Putin say is, we won. We solidified that Eastern Ukraine was really ours. We're keeping Crimea. We also made the Ukrainians give us back that land they tried to steal at the end of the war here. And we're stronger and better than ever. And we have many war heroes. And you're going to see all the parades and all the celebration. Also, Putin will be offered some kind of olive branch from Trump, some type of financial advantageous arrangement or treaty that will help Russia be able to continue to make a lot of money off their oil, okay? And the reason Trump will do this is to help bring this to an end, and he's going to turn toward Iran, and he's going to squeeze Iran out of oxygen, okay? He's going to try to drain their ability to sell oil, and he's going to allow Russia to sell it. And that's kind of how you see that war ending in. You heard it here first. I'm telling you some info I have heard, but mostly what I perceive, okay? You heard it here first. The red horse, though, is still galloping, okay? And especially the Middle East. The Middle East is about ready to blow sky high. No question about that. Biden has no peace plan for the Middle East. Matter of fact, Anthony Blinken now was supposed to testify before Congress, and he refused to go. He said no to the subpoena, said, I'm too busy with the Middle East. And so the Congress is not too happy with him, and he's the Secretary of State. The reason he's so busy is because Israel's winning. Israel's flat out winning. They are taking Hezbollah apart at the seams. They literally are. And there's no question about that. And so the rest of the world, and this is why Netanyahu did not go to Washington. He did not go to the United Nations because he was afraid of being assassinated. So he's staying away from that. And instead, he's trying to finish off Hezbollah and finish off Hamas, try to get whatever hostages he can and save the nation of Israel. But at the same time, Harris's plan is to part the land. And even if Harris doesn't win the election, her doctrine of part the land, it's being poisoned in the UN. And so even if she doesn't win, the United Nations plan is to try to force this parting of the land, even if they have to use military force to do it. And guys, this is why that red horseman behind me, he is galloping. Now, I got some other news to tell you. Again, get your tickets for the webinar. It will be it's beyond amazing. And you remember Daniel, the shofar guy? I just watched his presentation. It's professionally done. I mean, it's documentary level. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if the presentation he put together for our webinar, I wouldn't be shocked if that thing don't wind up on Netflix somewhere. I mean, it's so well done. It's incredibly done. Okay. Um, you'll want to stop it and slow down and research and take notes, and you'll want to, I mean, you literally will be absorbed trying to understand the concept. Now, he though is very honest. Even though he thinks very strongly that October 9th could be the day of the rapture, he says, but I can and I could be wrong. And if I am, I will. He spent 2 years studying the Bible, the Torah, the Old Testament Torah, the feast, the different Jewish calendars there are, and from the calendars from the Essene Jews and the Dead Sea all the way to present day Jewish calendar that about 80% of the world is accepted as Israel's calendar. But anyway, having said all that, he says, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And if I am, he said, I'm going back to find out where I missed it. So I like his approach, and I like the fact that he's, level-headed, clear-eyed, and upfront about that. He's not some end of the world cult that's, he's not. He is really studied. And so I always give a person, I really think that if someone spends 2 years of their life consumed in doing the work, you should listen and see, because I guarantee you we will learn a lot in that process. Okay. We will learn a lot about the Bible and about prophecy and about the calendars of and the feast and the constellations that God set up and he spoke about when he talked about in the word. Matter of fact, yesterday was the 7-year anniversary of the Revelation 12 sign. And this will blow your mind. I just got interviewed by Pastor Steve Leidig on his Facebook channel. And he showed me an explosion that happened in Russia. There was an explosion in Russia. And when the flames came up, they look like a red dragon. It's quite extraordinary. And so he started talking about Revelation 12:12 about the dragon. Okay. And I reminded him, I said, Pastor Steve, you do know that 7 years ago, yesterday, September 23rd, 2017, that was the Revelation 12 sign. Scotty Clark had studied for 4 years the constellations, and he studied stellarium. He went back as far back as he could and studied every day the constellations, looking for that Revelation 12 sign to actually line up perfectly. And he found it, that it would be September 23rd, 2017. He thought that meant that was the day of the rapture. I met with him 6 weeks before that day, and I had lunch with him. I said, Scotty, you have found the Revelation sign. Because he showed me that in stellarium. I said, yeah, you found it, but your understanding of it is off. It's not talking about rapture. It's talking about Israel, the nation, about to be challenged by the dragon to the point that they have to flee into the wilderness. They have to flee. Okay. It's a time of Jacob's trouble. It's a time of great peril, a time of great war. It's not the rapture. But that he and I had this open conversation. He stuck to his guns. He never said that, but I could be wrong. And that's where he had a tough time on September 24th, when he obviously missed it. Then he went into about a 2-year seclusion. Now he's come back out a little bit, and he's starting to work on some other things, and he loves the Lord. He always did. But that's why you don't want to do that. But anyway, that was 7 years ago yesterday, okay? And, oh, by the way, he studied the stellarium from NASA on what the constellations will do going forward. And as far as into the future as he can go, the sign never lines up perfectly like that again. So he did find the sign. He just didn't understand it. Now, it's different here with Daniel because Daniel is taking the approach just like Pastor Mark Biltz does. And that is, Mark has said it 3 or 4 times that he would say there's a high possibility everything's lining up that it could be, on the Feast of Trumpets, or, he'll say, but he said, but of course I could be wrong. He's always taken that approach. Daniel's doing the same thing. He's taking the same approach, but it's still fascinating to study and learn from the Word of God. Now, I have to tell you something. Mike from around the world, I interviewed him yesterday. He reveals about the explosion in Russia, but he also clarifies the 70,000 that will die and where. He clarifies it in his presentation. Okay? He clarifies it. He clarifies some more things in this. I did a Patreon. After we got done recording him for an hour for the webinar, I said, there's some more questions I want to ask you. And would you be willing to let me just interview you for 10 more minutes or so? And he said, okay. So I did. And we got into some areas that is very important. And I couldn't put it on here, so I had to put it on the Patreon channel. And so a lot of you are already members of the Patreon. It's only about 10 or 12 minutes long. And not only that, I've put 2 other videos up that I recorded. I sat down with Steve Ciccalante 11 months ago, and the footage has never aired on television. I've been putting it in the files and waiting for the right time to reveal it. It's 2 28-minute videos. One of them is the hang on a second. Let me just show you how to get to Patreon. Let me where's my link here? Patreon. And here it is. It's really easy to get to it. Just go to www.patreon.com/Paul Begley. Right there it is. I'll leave it on the screen. And you can go and you can get signed up over at Patreon. Real easy. A lot of you already are. And to sign up, you make a financial commitment that you will, and you can give for 6 months, or you can give for 1 month, or you can give for a year, you can give for a lifetime. You can do whatever you want to do. And you can give as much as you want to give. The average person gives around $5, but we have people who give more and we have people who give less, and you're not obligated. You do whatever you want to do. You're just helping us spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. So thank you so much. Now, so if you haven't, or if you're not, or you used to be and you let time expire, go back and just re-up again, okay? Because you don't want to miss these 10 or 11 minutes of Mike from around the world. It's on my Patreon. So there's 3 videos that I have posted on Patreon in the last 3 days. 2 of them are an interview I did with Pastor Steve Ciccalante on the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The first one is called Revelation Revealed, Black and Pale Horsemen, with Steve Ciccalante and Paul Begley. I put that up about 4 days ago or something like that. And then I think it was yesterday or the day before, I put up a second interview with Steve Ciccalante. It's called Breaking the Opening of the Seals with Steve Ciccalante and Paul Begley. Go watch those, guys. Watch those. They're so good. He does come at it from a total different perspective. And that's how Pastor Steve Ciccalante is. But it's really good. I don't always agree with everything, but it is really good. And that's the way I am. I always give everybody a chance to voice their view, because you have to in prophecy. You really do. You have to be flexible and teachable and learn. And so it's really good. I mean, he has some great points. So you definitely want to check out those 2 videos. And then, of course, the latest Patreon, I just posted it. I just posted before I came on here. It's Betrayal. Mike from Around the World and Paul Begley. Now, that is also the title of his presentation on the webinar, which is an hour long, but he stopped and he took time to let me ask him some more questions. And it is incredible. 10 or 11 minutes, never before said, incredible information. Betrayal. It's and so that's by Mike from Around the World. So if you're not a member of my Patreon channel, today's the day to go and sign up. Okay. And as you give, know that you're helping us spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, and you're helping Heidi and I to send these blankets to the sick and the dying and those who need miracles. You're helping us in every facet of the ministry, whether it be in foreign missions in India or in Pakistan. You're helping us do these things. But we give away so many Bibles, the thousands and thousands of Bibles that I've, over the last 15 years, that I've given away. And I don't just ship them to some agency and let them distribute them. I individually send them to people's homes all over America, individually. Free Bible, and I pay the postage. And we've done it for thousands of people. And when God told me to do this, I said, God, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do that. I don't know how I'm going to afford to do that. This is you've given me a task. You're almost like saying to me, go build the ark, Noah, go build the ark. But God said, no. You do what I'm telling you. I'll supply the need. And how does he do it? Through you and me. He does it through people, members of this online church, members of Patreon channel, followers and subscribers of this YouTube channel who God speaks to your heart, people who get their tickets for the webinars, all of these different avenues that people give, your tithe and offerings, your special donation, all of those different things. If it weren't for you, it's you obeying God so that I can obey God. And so God's word will not return void. Remember what he said. Okay? His word will not return void, but it will accomplish where he sends it. And so that's what we're doing. So if you please would go to Patreon and sign up today. You have 3 brand new videos to watch. Watch the 10 or 11 minute interview I had with Mike from Around the World, and watch the 2 interviews that I did with Pastor Steve Ciccalante. None of these have been seen by anybody. This is, and the reason is I couldn't put Steve Ciccalante's interview on YouTube because of the things he talks about. It wouldn't fly. Believe me, it wouldn't fly. So I had to put his interview also on Patreon. So thank you guys in advance. I thank you in advance. Thank you, Karen Long. Thank you, Love Adonai. Thank you, Patricia and Biofly and Linda and Mars Gold and Patricia again. I'm sorry, Belinda and Ken and Richard Reynolds. Richard Reynolds, it's amazing. He said, I just listened to it. Wow. Which one, Richard? I met Richard and his wife, I want to say at least 10 years ago. They drove all the way from Eureka, California to my dad's little church in Knox, Indiana for one of our 3 Days of Glory conference. And they drove, and he did it twice. There was 2 different years that they drove all the way to be with us. And also he's been a faithful tither and supporter for almost as long as I've been on the air. Richard Reynolds. He said so Richard said, I just listened to it. Wow. And I just asked him, who did you listen to? And he said, Mike. And then Richard's response is, wow. Thank you, Richard. That's probably the response of everybody. Now, guys, I'll be back with more current world events. I just want to be sure that I shared with you. The webinar is 3 days away. Get your ticket at my website. And I wanted to share with you these 3 videos that have never been seen before over at my Patreon channel. And I want you to pray for me because I have a hurricane coming here in less than about 48 hours. Matter of fact, when I go live on the air with Mike from Around the World Thursday night, I'll be right in the eye. The hurricane will be coming landfall. It's supposed to hit about 9 p.m. Eastern, about 80 miles from me, which means I am going, and this thing will be a category 3, maybe 4. That means I'm probably going to be experiencing wind somewhere in hurricane strength, 70, 75, 80 mile an hour, because this thing is powerful and it's coming fast. And I plan on being live on the air in the middle of a hurricane. Unless power gets knocked out. And if that happens, I'm still going to go live because I will use my cell phone and go live. Even if I'm in the dark with a candle. What? Even if I'm a candle in the wind. He was trying to preach the word when the storm began. I can see the light of the word of the gospel twisting in the wind, just like a candle. I'm not going to try to do a parody on that. Oh, man. Yeah, I'll be like a candle in the wind, but we'll be live Thursday regardless. God bless all of you. I love you guys. Go check these things out. And oh, by the way, in the webinar, I have to tell you, Bart Begley put together a great documentary called October Surprise. It's every election, what's happened in every election since the 1800s all the way to 2020. So it's really, really good. And Bart Begley interviews me. He wanted me to know on the first, quote, October surprise back in 1980, the one when it was finally coined. Bart wanted to know, what was I doing in 1980? How did I vote? And did the October surprise have any impact on me? It was a great interview by Bart. And that's my presentation on this webinar. And basically, we're calling it 1980 again. Okay. It is really, really good. I share some stories from my high school days and what the world was like then. And it's really good. All right, guys. I love all of you. God bless you. I'll be back with more here in a couple hours or so. I'll be back with another YouTube video. Meanwhile, go to Patreon and get your ticket for the webinar. God bless you. I love all of you. Are you serious? You're not going to play a song? Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. I'll do it. I'll play a song. I'll play a song. Okay. Israel's calling me right now, so I'll just play his song. That's okay. I'll play a song. No. I lose all sound. Try again.
God, I'm so scared.
Let's try it right
for this crooked generation. You even find faith in the earth when you bring down revelation. Give us now.
I'm going to push a button to see if I can make the sound better. You might lose sound for a couple, 30 seconds. Let's see.
We need you, Yeshua. Holy, holy, hallelujah. We abandon everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the stream. How much will we see before the fire falls
Lord, could this really be the last altar call? We need your blood over the doorposts of our hearts. Anoint us with your fire and love as the praise and worship starts. We need you, Yeshua. Holy, holy, hallelujah. We need you, Yeshua. Holy, holy, hallelujah. We abandon everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the streets. Oh, we abandon everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the streets. We abandoned everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the street. Are you serious? We abandoned everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the street. You know, these next 3 days, the information that we are providing for you will be unprecedented. No one will have brought this type of information forward in a collection of speakers and documentation and presentations. I'm starting it right now with the 3 videos I've posted at Patreon. The first one, of course, you'll see at the top was the one with Mike around the world, and the 2 below it are my interviews with Pastor Steve Ciccalante on the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, 2 and 2, okay? And all of it is incredible, and none of it could I put here on YouTube. So thank you so much for supporting the gospel. You give what you want to give and listen and watch and absorb it. And then at the same time, here comes the webinar on Friday. So God bless you, and pray for us as we are going to be in the eye of the storm. God bless. I'll be back with more in a couple hours.